This woman comes home holding hands with her husband's manager. The husband, when he sees this, gets up in anger, questioning why she is that way with her manager, and wants to know what she is doing with him. The woman then replies that the manager will now be her husband. The man is totally stunned by this and even questions whether his wife is going crazy. But soon his manager interrupts the discussion, asking him to calm down, because he won't hold a grudge against the employee. He says that his wife has good taste. In the same way, the man thinks that all that is absurd. But the woman says that absurd is to stay with a poor man like him, and orders him to leave her house. And the manager, trying to comfort the man, says that he won't send him out of his company. But the man refuses to leave, because that house is also his, since he also helped in everything and has a percentage of that house. The nervous woman claims that he doesn't have a percentage of anything, and if he did, he would leave immediately, before she throws his things out on the street with him. The man asks his wife to stop this, promising that he will get a better job, earn more money than his manager, to give his wife a better life. But the girl is already decided who she wants to be with, and doesn't want to talk to her husband, because she knows that her current manager can give her everything she wants. And the manager next to the girl tells the man to accept, because there are people who were born only to lose, and his employee is one of them. And before leaving the man alone, the woman says that he has 30 minutes to leave the house. When he is alone, he is totally hurt by everything that has happened. The next day, while he is at work, his manager approaches him wanting to talk about something important. He asks his employee not to mix things up, after all that has happened, because this is a working establishment and they should maintain cordiality. The man agrees with him, but doesn't stop talking about how angry he is for what the two have done to him, that it was indeed a betrayal on the part of his manager and wife. The manager, realizing that he is taking everything to heart, explains that his current wife is a very beautiful woman, but she deserves better things. And the employee questions whether his manager thinks he is the best of all. The boss says that at least he can afford to give his wife a better life, and orders the employee to organize things, because a lot of suppliers are coming into the company, so he wants everything in place and quickly, because everything is a mess. The employee begrudgingly agrees and goes back to work. Later, the man arrives home, greeting his new wife, who tells him to sit down because she is about to serve lunch, claiming that she has made a very special meal for him, and hopes that he likes it. Soon after, the employee enters the kitchen, saying that he is very hungry and that his lunch hour has arrived, and asks if there is anything for him to eat there. But the woman gets angry, claiming that there is nothing for him in that kitchen. But the man thinks that this is unfair, because he used all his salary to pay the household bills, so there is nothing left for him to eat. And the woman replies that this is not her problem. The manager also interrupts their discussion, saying that his employee will be humiliating himself. The man asks for at least a little empathy, since he is without any money, asking him to at least keep what is left of the newlyweds' food. But the ex-wife says that if he is hungry, he can drink water, because there is plenty of water in that house. He was hoping for at least a little compassion from his ex-wife, on account of all the years they were together, and she replies angrily that all the years have only served to make her disgusted with her ex-husband, handing him a bag that was beside her. He doesn't understand what it is, but the woman just orders him to leave her house and never come back. And the manager stands up, agreeing with the woman. With no choice, he leaves. Later, the employee enters the company owner's office, because the boss has called him in to talk. The boss explains that he doesn't have any good news, and the employee says that lately he is only getting bad news. The boss doesn't want him to get desperate, but decides to tell him that lately the company is only going downhill. The income is dropping more and more, and the performance is terrible. Unfortunately, he doesn't know what is going on, because they are delivering the same amount of products, but the turnover is low, so the situation is a bit complicated. The employee asks his boss to be honest, questioning whether he is being fired. But the boss asks him not to be desperate, that he is warning him beforehand, because this way the employee can already look for another job, thus already trying to find a solution for himself. He is being sincere in explaining that the situation of the company is very complicated, but they are trying to do everything they can to improve things. The boss believes that if they can find a solution for the company, the employee will continue in the company. And the secretary comments that he is the most dedicated employee in the company. The man says he's just a porter who carries weight all day long everywhere. And the boss says, it's a job few people want to do. The secretary also claims that they called him there because he has a wife and children, that he has a family, and they don't want the employee to be helpless. The man says that he has no children, and that his wife has left him. The boss is sorry for everything that happened with this, and finds it even surprising, because he imagined that his wife was a very companionable woman, and asks if he wants to share what happened. The employee decides to tell, saying that it will be good even to ease his pain a little. He tells that his wife has left him for another man. The boss says that it is an unfortunate situation, but that the employee should always hold his head up high, that he can always count on him if he needs anything. The employee thanks him, and says that he even wanted to talk to the boss about the little room in the back of the company, explaining that it is unoccupied and asks if he can use this room to live temporarily, until he can find a place to stay. The boss immediately accepts, saying that the man can count on him for whatever he needs. He thanks him again for the help. After a few days, the secretary comes by to talk to the employee. She claims that she saw on his resume that he is an accountant and asks if this is true. He explains that he has a degree in accounting, but it was hard to find a job, so he took the first job that came along. The woman explains that they are struggling with the company's accounts. She says that they can't pay much, but she would like to know if the employee can help with the accounting. He accepts immediately, saying that it's even good for him to train a little on accounting, and that it will be a pleasure to help his boss in this. She is waiting for him at the office. He tells her that he will just change his clothes before he goes. Later, he arrives at the office. The secretary explains where all the necessary documents are, and asks him to look if he finds any problems. He then asks to be alone so as not to lose his concentration, but promises to call her as soon as he finishes looking at all the numbers. The woman agrees with him. After he is alone, he starts going through the company's accounts. Later, the manager enters the room looking for the boss, but finds the employee there, and questions what he is doing. He even tries to explain what he is doing, but the manager interrupts him, saying that he is not doing anything and shouldn't even be in that room, because he should be doing the job he was assigned to do. The employee tries to explain that the secretary asked him to be there, but the manager says that the secretary has nothing to do with it, saying that his manager is above the employee. The boss enters the room along with his secretary, questioning what is going on there. The manager starts to explain that that dirty man is sitting at the boss's desk, and on top of that, going through his things. But the boss says that he was the one who asked the employee to solve a problem because he is an accountant. But the manager says that this is a lie, because the employee can't even count to 10. The secretary interrupts because the employee has a degree from a very good university, and the manager seems nervous, claiming that he is the accountant of that company and wants to know why they are putting another employee to do his job. And the employee says that he doesn't need all that. He claims that he has already finished organizing all the company's accounting. However, the boss claims to want to look at what he did first, asking him not to leave the room yet. When the boss looks at all the accounts, he is stunned, claiming that it is all impossible. But the employee assures him that he did all the math correctly. Then the boss shows the screen to the manager, asking him to look at the information, questioning what it is all about. And the accountant just says that he is seeing a lot of red numbers. The employee explains that this is exactly what it is, because the company has been in the red for 5 months. The boss finds this impossible, complains about how many things are missing in his stock, and asks the company accountant where his goods are. The accountant says that he doesn't understand either, because it is the employee who carries the goods, and he only does the accounting in the office. Soon after, the employee interrupts him, because he doesn't want to take the blame for what is not his, explaining that he only carried the merchandise that the accountant ordered him to do. And he also tells his boss that he noticed that where he carried the merchandise was full of people who handle things illegally. The boss is confused by this information, but the worker tries to explain immediately that whenever he demanded an invoice for the products, the accountant said that he doesn't need an invoice. The stuttering accountant reveals that he has a very young wife, and that he decided to take some of the company's money to support his wife, and that he needed to get the money from somewhere. The boss gets up totally nervous after that confession, claiming that not only did the accountant steal from under his nose, but he still had the courage to confess while being cynical. The accountant still challenges the boss when the secretary says that all this is absurd and suggests calling the police. The boss claims that he doesn't need to, claiming that the accountant will leave the company of his own accord, or else he will call the security guard. Even though he is fired, the accountant wants to know his settlement, but the boss just laughs, saying that the accountant is too bold to even ask for a settlement. He says that the settlement is the goods that he stole all these years, that all these years the company almost went bankrupt because of him. The boss says that the accountant should leave the company in handcuffs, and the accountant, still wanting to come out on top, claims to be too much for that company, and walks away, leaving the three alone in the room. The boss is disappointed, claiming to be speechless after all that has happened, but thanks the employee for his help, because he saved his company. And if it weren't for the employee, the boss imagines that the company would be heading even further toward the edge of the abyss. And taking advantage that the position of the company's accountant is vacant, he takes the opportunity to give this opportunity to the employee, making him the company's new accountant. The man is very happy with this chance, accepting the opportunity immediately, claiming that he will be the best accountant the company has ever seen. And he says that if this is what the company needs to move up, he will do it for them. The boss has a lot of confidence in this employee. A year later, the man is already successful in his life, and has managed to buy his old house, where the owner claims that he could no longer afford to rent that house. The man questions where the former tenants of the house are, and the owner replies that he had to call the police to evict them. The accountant asks if they left the house in a civilized manner. The owner answers no, that they were even leaving the house at that moment. Then the two observe the couple being kicked out of the house by the police because they did not want to leave in a civilized manner. The husband tells his wife to calm down because he will find a job for both of them, but the wife doesn't even respond, and he greets her while being nice. The ex-wife says that he looks very handsome, that she heard about his job promotion. He thanks her and says that she also looks very beautiful, and the woman, being self-interested, asks if he is willing to erase the past, but he quickly turns away from his ex-wife, saying that he doesn't want to get back together with her, and she questions why, totally forgetting what she's done. Then the secretary approaches her, saying that they are now married. Soon the woman begins to offend her, saying that she always knew that the secretary was hitting on her husband, but the man interrupts her, telling the ex-wife to stop the scene, calling the wife to come into his house. The woman approaches the owner, questioning if he doesn't have any house for rent that she can afford him, but he knows it's a lie, and orders the woman to get out of his way, and the woman is left alone, not knowing where to go.